Call to order the regular council meeting for the town of Evansville. May I have a roll call, please?
Mayor Chad Edwards.
Here.
Councilmember Joe Canoff asked to be excused tonight. Councilmember Candace Machado. Here. Councilmember Michael Scott.
Here.
Councilmember Dacia Edwards. Here. Town Attorney Scott Murray.
Here.
Town Engineer Shane Porter.
Here.
Chief of Police Mike Thompson.
Here.
Fire Chief Leo Lawson asked to be excused tonight, and in his place is Fire Chief Mark Cornett.
Here.
Public Works Director Robert Llewellyn.
Here.
Town Clerk Janelle Underwood, and the rest of the city citizens.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So.
Do I have a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Item 1, the consent agenda. Approval of the minutes for June 27th, 2022.
Can you repeat that, please?
Yes. Approval of the minutes for June 27th, 2022. Approval of business licenses for Absolute Vinyl, Antelope Arms, Central Wyoming Construction. Approval of the bills. I have a motion to approve the consent agenda. I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Item 2, bid award for the 2022 or newer half-ton truck tabled for, or actually, do I have a motion to bring the bid award off the table?
Motion.
I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, now item 2, the bid award for the 2022 or newer half-ton truck. Chief?
Mayor and council, finally got it ready. We tabled it quite a few meetings, and now we're ready to bring it to you guys. We got 6 bids in total. Reiner Ford had the lowest bid, which turned in all the documents required for the bid. The bid came in at $47,902. I recommend that we accept this bid. It's for 2022 Ford F-150 crew cab short box. Along with that, I did some research, and we can get a premium care warranty that covers the 1,000+ components. That warranty is 8-year, 100,000 mile. 100,000 mile with a $200 deductible for each repair in between, and that warranty is for $3,780. So I also recommend that we award the truck with that warranty. The total on that's going to be $51,632. You guys have any questions or?
Questions? A motion to approve the bid award for the 2022 or newer half-ton truck and 8-year warranty.
My motion?
I have a second?
I'll second
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, motion passes. Thank you. Do I have a motion to bring forward the approval of the Chili's Bar and Grill license tabled on 6/27? I have a second? All those in favor? All right. Do we have a representative from Chili's here tonight?
My name is Bruce Shively, and I'm one of the owners.
Thank you, Mr. Shively. We appreciate you coming in tonight for us. Any questions for Mr. Shively?
You approximately know when you guys are due open.
Approximately
Hopeful. August?
August 8th.
Okay.
We start training next week.
Very excited to have you.
Excited to be in the process.
I'll bet. Do I have a motion to approve the Chili's Bar and Grill liquor license?
I motion that.
I have a second.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, motion passes. Thank you very much. All right, item 5 is the engineer's report. Oh, I'm sorry. I did skip 4. Item 4, authorization for the mayor to execute a contract for professional services with the City of Casper Transit Services.
Mr. Mayor Mayor and council brought before you tonight is the transit services agreement with the city of Casper. This is to provide transportation for what was known as the bus that is now the Link, and then what was known as CATSI as the Assist. And it's brought before you tonight for approval, and the grand total for Evansville's share of the cost for that is $35,214.92, and that's for the fiscal year of July 1, 2022 to June 30th, 2023. I just need authorization for the mayor to execute the agreement.
And this is the same funding level that we provided in 2019 prior to the pandemic. Any questions, comments regarding the CATSI service agreement? Do I have a motion to authorize the mayor to execute the contract for professional services with the city of Casper Transit Service? Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Now, item 5, engineer's report.
All right, Mayor and Council, I have quite a few things tonight, so I'll try to go quick. I don't think all these people came to listen to me, but maybe they did. So anyway, so the first thing I have Resolution 2022-06. So this is a resolution authorizing submission of an application to the State Loan and Investment Board for a grant through Water and Sewer ARPA grant program funding on behalf of the governing body. This is a grant for total amount of $508,271 grant application, I should say, 508,271, and this is to finish the emergency connection project, which is a project connecting Casper's water to Evansville's water in the case of an emergency at the treatment plant. So it's a project that started several years ago but didn't have the funding to finish. So this is an application to try to get that funding to finish. So recommend a motion to have the mayor sign and recommend a motion to approve resolution 2022-06.
Any questions about the application for the emergency water?
Now, your report was very thorough. I read through all the pages.
There's a lot of stuff in there.
It was lots.
I should say, so this is a 84% grant, 16% match. So the town's match on this would be $96,814.
And I just would like to reiterate that this was a project started several years ago, providing the town some water source in case they were having a problem with our treatment plant system, allowing us to draw water from the city of Casper. Yes, ma'am.
Is this something with the fact that sometimes I smell sulfur coming out of my faucet? Is that anything to do with that?
No.
Okay.
Primary reason for this is, as I mentioned, if we were to ever have a problem with our water plant or anything like that, we would be unable to provide water to the town's residents. So this provides a connection to Casper, where if we were to ever have an issue like that, we could draw from Casper's water system and still provide water to the town residents.
If we do ever have to,
Mhm.
is there gonna be a significant upcharge?
We would have to pay.
Don't do it to my house. I have to charge.
Well, it all goes off your water usage,
Oh.
but it's very important in my mind that we have that option out there. We can't just go and tell the citizens, well, you don't get water because we have intake pump down or something to that effect. Something were to happen. So this provides another alternative to the town in case of an emergency, that we can provide those services to the citizens. Any other questions, discussion? Do I have a motion to approve Resolution 6, 2022? I have a second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, motion passes.
So the next two items, I think we can lump together. They're part of the same grant application, but they just require signatures from the mayor. So the first one is a certification statement, and it basically just says you're going to follow, if you get the money, you're going to follow the rules of the ARPA grant requirements through the federal government. So that's that one. And the second one is, it's just another signature page on the grant, but it's a description of the project and the funds that we already talked about. So just recommend a motion to have the mayor sign the certification statement and general information form.
Motion to approve certification statement.
I motion.
Have a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
So the next thing I have is Resolution 2022-07. This is again for another resolution to submit an application to the State Loan and Investment Board for a grant through the Water and Sewer ARPA grant program, funding on behalf of the governing body for the town of Evansville. This project is to perform some upgrades at the water treatment plant. At our last staff meeting, the operator informed us that the two older filter trains, they're just starting to reach their lifespan and are in need of refurbishment and replacement. Well, you can't replace them, but you got to replace all the internal workings. So, it's not, I guess what came about is these funds came about about the same time as the operator notified us that they're time to start looking at this. So town elected to move forward with a grant application for the funds to use to upgrade the filter trains at the water treatment plant also. So this is quite a bit more expensive. Those components in there, this grant application is for $1,273,892. And at the town's 16% match would be $242,646. So recommend a motion to have the mayor sign, or recommend a motion to approve resolution 2022-07. Open to any questions.
So, as Shane had alluded, this is preventative maintenance on the plant in order to do the same filter work we did on the new filter several years ago, bringing the other two filters up to spec with the third filter.
I think I would add that it's not an emergency. He didn't say they're failing right now. It's just something that we need to look forward to or plan for. And if these funds are available, now would be a good time to get a hold of some grant funds and make those improvements. So,
And we do have, the town does have the funds available in its enterprise reserves to pay for the grant match, which is also 16%. Correct?
yes.
Any questions on resolution 7, 2022?
So the grant, if we do that, that will be for the two, correct? Or is that for one?
It's for both the two oldest filter trains. There was a new one that was installed in 2014. Does that sound right, you know? Actually, no, it was older than that, 2009. Been a while. Yep. But it's operating flawlessly, even 11 years down the road, 12 years down the road.
And the existing filters have been in operation
Since 1984,
78.
78.
78.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Our motion to approve resolution 7, 2022. Have a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
So just like the last one, there's two other forms that need signed, the certification statement and the just general information form. I recommend a motion to have the mayor sign those forms for the grant submittal.
Second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
So the next thing I have is the Wyoming Business Council grant that we have out right now for the community development plan update. That community development plan is in the works, has been moving along on schedule. I think several people have been involved in that process, the different steering committee meetings and various meetings. There's a what is it, Janelle, a questionnaire that's out right now trying to take public input on that project. But so this is the Wyoming Business Council grant. We've had 2 invoices submitted from the consultant working on that project. Invoice dated June 17, 2022 was $5,905. Invoice dated 7/14/22 with $10,142.50. This is all on the Wyoming Business Council grant. The grant covers 75% of the fees or the costs. So the total drawdown request is $12,036, which leaves a remaining balance on the grant of $22,964. So I just recommend a motion to have the mayor sign and submit drawdown request number 1 to the state for reimbursement on those invoices.
Any questions about the comprehensive update? Motion to approve drawdown number 1.
Motion it.
Have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Okay, so next thing I have is just our annual agreement for our engineering services for the town. We do this every fiscal year. and just update that agreement so that we have an active contract between us and the town. So it has been reviewed by the town attorneys. Just recommend approval of WLC's agreement with the town of Evansville for the ongoing engineering and planning services.
Any questions about WLC's planning services? Motion to approve the agreement with WLC to provide planning services to the town of Evansville. All those in favor?
Aye.
And the last thing, the Lathrop Road TAP project, we were awarded the YDOT TAP grant for the pathway along Lathrop Road several months ago. Then part of that process then was for the town to go through the consultant selection process. The town went through that process. They selected WLC as their consultant to do that work. So after going back and forth with YDOT numerous times, we've got a contract that they've approved and the town attorneys have approved, and just recommend a motion for the town to execute the contract between the town of Evansville and WLC for the pathway project along Lathrop Road. And that'll get that project in design.
Any questions regarding the Lathrop Road multi-use path project? I have a motion to approve the agreement with WLC. Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
That's all I got.
I don't know if it's appropriate for me to add to the engineer's report.
Oh, yeah.
But, another item on the engineer's plate I just wanted to update everybody on was been a lot of back and forth lately with YDOT regarding the urban systems funds to finish the paving of Memorial Way. So we've had a lot of communication. A draft agreement has made it through the attorney's office, and I believe Shane submitted the environmental impact study as well as the design work for the pathway. So we're hoping we're getting closer to an agreement. Did I get that right?
Yep. And yeah, so now I think it's been submitted to Cheyenne for review of the contract or the agreement. So hopefully once that's signed, we can move forward with getting bids. And the project is designed and ready to go. So we just need to get bids and get a contractor out there. So,
Yes, ma'am.
and there will be, I guess I should add, oh, sorry.
I'm gonna go ahead.
There will be a blade on the road tomorrow at 5 a.m. to try to smooth it up a little bit. It won't last a long time just because it's just there's a lot of traffic on there, and once it gets compacted once and put back smooth, but it doesn't take long, as we've seen, for it to get pretty rough. So, but it will be worked on again tomorrow. So
Even though we've made significant progress on this project recently, things do take time. So we would anticipate several more weeks before we're nearing the phase of actually being able to pave the road. All right. Oh, yes, sir.
So once they start that, we can expect it to show.
I think once we start the paving, literally we can be done in 7 to 10 days.
Go quickly once we get to the phase, but getting there's been the hard part. So, yes, sir.
Save money on that project, and oil-based gravel to prolong the life of the grading.
The first time it was graded, we did put mag chloride down, and it did help for a while. It's an added expense at this point, so, but it does help keep the dust down for a while. But we haven't tried to get estimates for that, but
The focus has really been just to get the road finished, get the paving on there and get it finished. So I'm going through the process back and forth with the state to get this agreement finalized so we can finish the project. Any other questions on the engineer's report? I have a motion to approve the engineer's report.
Almost that.
I have a second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. Motion passes. Item 6, approval of a visionary license agreement.
Mr. Mayor, Council, and Stacy McDonald from Visionary is here tonight as well in the audience. What we have here is we're in the process of finalizing the franchise agreement with Visionary to have them lay fiber and stuff like that within the town. However, they're getting ready to start work pretty quickly. So for the interim, we are ironing out a temporary use agreement so that that work can get started. And then when we finalize the franchise agreement, that franchise agreement would supersede this temporary use agreement. The temporary use agreement goes away and the franchise agreement is controlling. And so what we would be asking council to do tonight is authorize the mayor to execute that temporary use agreement pending the final iterations of the agreement between us and Visionary.
Stacy, do you have anything to add?
Okay, so let's get, if there's any questions, if you have questions.
Any questions on the visionary use agreement?
What would be in the temporary agreement? Like what specific?
I mean, it's going to largely mirror the franchise agreement, just in terms of the what Visionary is allowed to do, how they'll do it, the approval of the town being necessary for everything that they're doing. It's really just going to be more or less what the franchise agreement is, but because the franchise agreement is an ordinance, it's adopted by the town, we have to go through the 3 readings, and so it's kind of a time constraint that's having us go this temporary use agreement.
This gives them the opportunity to utilize the town's right of way, so including their infrastructure, provide those services.
Yeah.
So do I have a motion to authorize the mayor to sign a temporary use agreement after finalized by the attorney? I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Item 7, discussion of parking trailers on town streets. Have anybody that would like to speak regarding the ordinance of parking trailers on town streets? So currently, the ordinance reads that there is a 7-day period within any 30-day period that trailers are allowed to be parked on town streets. That's the current ordinance. 7 days out of a 30-day period. Yes, that's how the current ordinance reads. That has been there for many years. Yes, sir. Yeah, you want to come on up? And I know in the past, it's hard for some of the people at home to hear the audience when they're making comments. So if you please come to the lecture.
If you have a camper.
Stand right there.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm not a people person.
Good.
So if you have a camper, that is a trailer. If you have a flatbed trailer, that is a trailer. What do you class a motorhome as? Is that a trailer or is that a motor vehicle?
So currently, the way the ordinance reads, it is a travel trailer or RV. This is what's classified under the rules.
Exactly.
Right. And why are we being told that trailers are vehicles?
You're-
The thing is I don't have a problem parking my camper in its spot when I'm not using it. But in the summertime, I use it every single weekend. It's a pain in the butt with all the vehicles parked on the street trying to get my camper parked in its spot. I have vehicles that have flat tires next to me. I have issues with that. I have a special needs daughter. Can I put my placard up so that I can leave my camper on the street so that when we're trying to load our camper, she can't wheel out into the gravel. She has to wheel out on the concrete. I mean, I understand that campers and trailers and everything else, yeah, they're a nuisance. But for 6 months out of the year, if we even have that many days of camping, I mean, it's not that big a deal. I mean, I don't see why 7 days in a 30-day period change the stand. I mean, that's, our camper is generally there for 16 days in a 30-day period. It's there from Monday till Thursday, then it leaves. And it's gone.
There's Sunday.
Yep. And Dacia's my neighbor.
And I almost got hit today coming up my
You're my neighbor. I mean,
driveway to get here.
I can see it around it, not a problem. But the thing is, like I said, a motorhome is classified as a motor vehicle. So if I trade my camper in and buy a giant freaking motorhome, it's fine. But I can't park my trailer, my camper trailer, or my bumper pole trailer, or just an enclosed work trailer. People have roofs done all the time. Take a couple weeks sometimes. So those contractors are not gonna be able to park their trailers on the street while they're doing their contract. A trailer's a trailer.
So, I might add, sir, so the reason why this conversation got brought up again was because of the social media post, because this was a conversation that we had.
Pictures of my trailer.
I was not aware that it was your trailer, but thank you, duly noted. I think the big key issue that we're running into, and this was the issue, because we were talking about the same discussion last year that we're talking about this year. And I think as a collective council, we're all trying to come together to figure out what's the best course of action to take, because I actually agree with you. What is the difference? Where is the difference? We've had discussions about the differences. We've had discussions about the safety portion of it. Well, we can't say that it's safety, 23 days out of the month, and then it's not safety 7 days out of the month, because that doesn't make sense if we're talking about safety. And then Chief Thompson, on the last time, sir, you can go ahead and jump in on this if you'd like to, but then we also had the discussion about how many trailers or how many vehicles that would qualify under the ordinance, and it was 24, correct? We had 24?
24 trailers, 12 of them are classified according to discussion because the ordinance about the 7 days and 30 is specific to camping type trailers, where contracting like box trailers, light truck trailers, flatbeds are not.
And I think that that's where the challenge is right now, because like you said, some of this stuff doesn't make sense to me, and I think that that's everybody on the council can agree that these ordinances that have been put in place, this ordinance has been put in place since 1982, when I went back to the archival, information with Janelle, and the ordinance has only slightly been changed, since 1982. And I think that what we're trying to determine and figure out is we're looking for suggestions, because I feel like in the past discussions, it's been emotionally reactive, and a lot of people have been really emotional about this situation, and we don't want to take this situation lightly, but we're looking for solutions so what do you feel like your solution would be? Because I would love to.
In my 25 years of living in my home, I've seen one trailer hit on my block, and it was a red flatbed trailer, which to this day is still parked on my street, which I have no problem with. That's the only trailer I've seen hit in 25 years. And I do not live on a corner lot where I block a stop sign or anything else. I said, my camper, it's the size of a motorhome, but it don't have a motor. Therefore, it's not classified as a motor vehicle.
So if we trade.
I'll trade up and get even a bigger one just to be a pain in the ass. But I don't want to be a pain in the ass. I'm just asking for lenience for the months that we use our camper.
Well, can I add, I live on the same street then, and down at the end of the street, there's been a camper, a full camper, that's been parked in the same spot for a year and a half, and no one's set a motor.
Yeah.
So and it's more towards the corner than theirs is, so I'm really confused on why their.
I feel we're getting
camper
picked
in
on.
particular is the issue. That's super confusing.
Well, and I think there was a couple of different things there, so she's possibly jumping on the answer. I think one of the issues is safety was brought up, and then the other issue is the classification with the ordinance. All the problems with the I right now, the ordinance is very broad, and it's very big. I don't disagree with anything that you guys said, but
I don't want to drop that high.
I will
just thought
say
about
though.
going and buying one of those and just working on the street.
I will say though that in terms of like some of these campers and these trailers that maybe haven't been noticed for like a year and a half. I mean, between the council and Chief Thompson and specifically myself, I've reached out to lots of different people in different departments. And I think where we're running into an issue, to be radically transparent with everyone, is that there's not enough manpower to enforce some of these things that are going on. And obviously that's not a resident issue, but that's a town issue in general that.
Well, I don't understand how you can consider it a safety issue when it's allowed 7 to 8 hours a month. So it's only.
Exactly.
And that's what's initially has been discussed for the last year when this has been brought up is it really a safety issue if we are only allowing it a certain point of time? Yes, sir. Do you want to jump in?
Yes, so for clarity, what,
Sir, so the way that this will work best is essentially if we just kind of line up, because everyone's gonna have to come to the podium and talk into the microphone.
I don't wanna take it from you.
You guys can just teamwork.
There we go. All right, just for clarity, who's the author of the ordinance, or is this just a refined ordinance from 82? Just a refined ordinance from 82?
Yeah, so the original ordinance was in 1982, and then the second portion of the ordinance was, help me, in
2016.
2016, yes.
Okay.
The one
And
that
then-
we're working on now.
Yes, and then the conversation last year got brought up, and that's when it sparked the conversation again. So there's only been a slight change in the ordinance since 1982 from what I could read.
Okay, and so, not needing names, was it brought up again by a member of the council, or was it brought up by a civilian here in Fresno?
Last year, it was
Yes.
brought up by residents in the town, and then this year, recently, I brought it up about, three and a half weeks ago, because of everything that was being posted on social media. And we had never actually determined anything from last year's discussion. And so that's why we initially ended up, or I can at least say for myself, I ended up bringing it up in public comments because we had never actually determined anything from the discussion prior. So to make sure that we were holding, or at least I was looking at residents and holding up my end of the bargain, because I can't speak for everybody. But that's why this discussion is being brought up again. But we want that feedback. We want the suggestions. And to be honest with you, I honestly can't say that we're going to be able to please everybody, but that's why we're wanting more people to come and have a voice in this so that we can hear everyone out, so that decisions and choices being made, we can wholeheartedly look you all in the eye and say, we effectively listen to everybody.
Absolutely. So, my next question. What's the goal? The end goal. The end goal of what, I know you're wanting to hear what we have to say. I know we're wanting to go in a specific, or go in some form of direction, but I'm not sure exactly what direction. Do we need to keep the ordinance? Because, you did mention earlier, we can't necessarily say it's a safety issue if we're going to say it's safe for 7, not for the rest of the month. That's not logical. I used to be a get safety stuff. So what is it? What is the goal that you guys would like to see? And then we can see the goals that we'd like to see. That way, now we're clear, and now it's going to happen. We'll have to find a compromise, and we find that good middle ground where something works out.
I totally agree with everything. I just have one thing I want to be wondering while you're just. Hi, Council, Mayor. I was just curious real quick, a couple of things. I think a lot of people in the community will say that there's some common sense spots for campers, trailers, vehicles should be in federal. And I, as a member of the community, don't necessarily know where those kind of rules come from. We have a lot of common sense things like, I think should be pretty well agreed upon that you shouldn't park in front of a fire hydrant, right? shouldn't park the car in front of the fire station, right? We shouldn't block off entrances to the police station, right? Common sense things. I'd just like to know where those kind of laws come from, whether they're DOT, whether they came from the council, you know, specific to Evansville per se. And then what on our books as Evansville dictates, hey, you have to park so many feet away from a stop sign on the street corner. And do we have a maintenance or do we have a rough idea on what those costs are to up the paint a little bit? Because I'm very, as a member of the community, you leave me alone, I leave you alone, but if we need help, we're gonna work together as a community. So we need to block off and paint that corner. You guys have some rough ideas on maintenance costs in the past and what it's taken to maintain some of the things that are already in place? I'm not looking for more. I'm looking for what's in existence and what does that cost?
I'll look at Robert, but the existing yellow lines on the corners is relatively minimal to maintain. Not something that requires a lot of maintenance. Things like the crosswalk, constantly under maintenance because it seems that as soon as we paint them, they get worn off. So the actual no parking yellow lines are very minimal.
Where do the laws come from on light that says like a quarter? You'll see yellow on a quarter by stop. Where's that come from? Is that Evansville? Is that White Hot? I mean, I'm just curious where I could read more on that.
So those are all defined by town ordinances.
Either town ordinance or the town has also adopted state statute as well. So
Okay.
it's usually going to be some combination of the two.
Okay. Very good. So minimal costs on marking and leaving stuff alone. And has there been any recent needs of more? Has anyone come forward and said we need more? Don't park here?
There was
Last year, there was something that did come to council as far as like over the new part of, is that 6th or 7th Street? I'm not, the new where, correct.
So
There was, I do remember, there was some stuff that come in and I remember that Robert and the guys paid a little bit more because when you're coming out of those streets, the visibility wasn't there.
So you said pay me a little, will that have to be approved by council?
yes, that was approved by the council. Yeah. That intersection is roughly double the distance of the other intersections in the
Okay.
area.
No, I appreciate it.
I wanted to go back to that gentleman's thoughts, questions, concerns before we move on. So I think at least for me, from a goal standpoint, is this discussion has been talked about on and off for the last year. So the goal for me is to get the suggestions, determine next steps, vote on a determination and move forward so that we're not constantly having to go through this,
Constantly going back and forth.
going
not
back and forth
constantly
and trying to figure this piece out. And I think that initially with Evansville ordinances, at least from what I've seen so far, a lot of the ordinances have been put in place for a really long time. Let's just say that. They've been in place for a really long time, and that is a discussion that we have had on a couple of different occasions of, how do we best move forward as a town? Because the town is expanding, it's growing. We're hitting a lot of different roadblocks with how to move forward with this. And so I can't speak for the other members of council, but I can at least say, I would just like for us to move forward with the decision after the process and have moved forward with what we have to do, but I'd like to see a decision being made so that we are not going back and forth, so that we can move forward on other things that are on the agenda list.
Absolutely, being a gator gunner is important, otherwise things just keep going in circles.
Very much.
A suggestion for the future for expansions would be to make the roads a little bit wider in streets, if that's possible. I mean, and I don't mean what's already there. Expanding those, that would be interesting. But any further development or, all that, just make the roads a little bit wider. That would give everybody plenty of room to pass one another. And I don't know how everyone else thinks, but if the trailer ordinance is uber important, we need to figure out what we're gonna do to keep, or what we're gonna keep on it. Since it's so old, I mean, in Arizona, it's illegal to hunt camels. And it's illegal in the city of Tucson for women to wear pants. And those laws are still there, they just haven't been taken away. So
maybe we don't even need 14.
Yeah.
And then, sir, yes, did you have any other thoughts? Because I know that a lot of people were trying to come up and I want to make sure you got to say everything you wanted to.
I just need to know if I need to upgrade my camper to a motorhome.
I would really hope not. Because I feel like that would be an overstep
But
on
I
our
can park
part,
a motorhome, but not a camper.
putting some wheels on it. I would really hope that we wouldn't need you to do that. We've already been through enough expenses over the last several years. We don't want to.
In 25 years, I haven't had an issue, and I've got different trailers in this town
Will you
for a long time.
Will you come back up?
I'm sure he can hear me.
Well,
But the bottom line is, this has never been an issue in this town until the last few years. And the funny thing is people that bring it up don't even live on your block. That's the greatest part about it.
But everybody back to know is, okay, if you're a town person, Evansville has a, say,
It is your town, but if you don't like what's on that particular block, take a different one. We got lots of,
That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to get some information, some suggestions
Right.
from you guys. The town is Evansville, not just particular areas. If we approve something for a certain area and not another area, then we're gonna have another issue.
well, that doesn't work. It has to be the town-wide.
Absolutely, and that's what we're trying to do.
It's just like the county. When they did the whole smoking ban in Casper and not county, that was just assing me. It's like, what's good for one isn't good for all. It's like, it's gotta be fair throughout,
Absolutely.
not just the city, county, state, federal, all that. Everything needs to be fair. And my suggestion would be to get rid of the ordinance until October, which then we have snow plows and hazardous conditions. And that's when they need to be off the streets because that is a hazard. In the summertime,
You're not gonna slide into someone's camper or something when it's 95 degrees outside. When it's cold outside, we have snow, ice, and it's like, I wish we could actually have some more roads plowed, but I know with all the vehicles and everything parked on the street, we can't do that. Because we have very narrow streets. And therefore, you shouldn't have campers and trailers, any type of trailer on the street in the wintertime because it is a hazard. Like I said, now, I can't remember whose trailer that was that got hit, was it 7, 8 years ago? Yep, but yeah, it's like, that's the only trailer that I know of that's been hit. And I don't know if you know of any others, but you weren't here when that happened, but.
We've been down there in Curtis and the Narrows.
Right, but I mean, as many trailers that are in this town, I went down 3 blocks and I think I counted 9 trailers. And 2 or 3 trailers getting hit in 25 years, that ain't too bad odds. And I don't know how many people have gotten blindsided because they couldn't see anything, but that'd be another question for you. But I mean, our speed limit's set at 20 miles an hour for a reason. Pay attention, drive slow. We have lots of kids. I don't even go 20 because I know kids run out all the time. We have a lot of kids in this town. So use your common sense, drive safe, pay attention. Don't be home, let down our streets. And that's all I have to say about this problem. I hope you guys can figure it out. Otherwise, buy a motorhome. Don't give them more tax.
Thank you.
So I'm new to the area and I certainly won't cause any ruffles or anything, but is my understanding, so the trailers, I don't see any in my area, but is it, well, this is an issue because the roads are small and people trying to get, drive along and then having to go over and get into the other direction heading on? Is that, what's the problem?
So there's several different issues that were brought up last year that were the same issues that we're addressing this year. Obviously, some of the roads are smaller in certain areas of Evansville, but the issues that were brought up last year were about safety. They were about children running out and not being able to be seen. There was a concern about that. There was concern about, that was right around the time that we were having the conversation about the yellow lines and not being able to see visibly, people backing out of their driveways, not being able to see beyond a big huge RV, things like that. So the same issues that were being talked about last year were also the same issues that everybody is bringing to our attention right now in this meeting. The issues haven't changed. It's just getting to that place of moving forward. So it's an encompass of all of them. It's not just one or two issues. It's what everybody is talking about. You know, the ordinance is pretty broad, the way that it reads in terms of its general sense of the nature. So it's not covering maybe flatbed trailers or motorhomes or campers that don't have wheels on them or things like that. So there's this big, huge kind of gray area that's not really addressed in the ordinance either, which that's why everybody's bringing up really wonderful points, because it's not addressed in the ordinance the way that it reads. And so that's why we're trying to come to some form of an understanding of what's happening.
And the ordinance would be overall not, it wouldn't matter how wide your street is or how narrow, they have to use one ordinance that would affect everybody, no matter whether you're in a rural area, we have a big wide area, or whether you're in a city proper, a small street, they have to do one rule that apply to all.
Correct.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
It's a great question. They're all great questions. We need the suggestions.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council. My name is Laura Johnson, and I live over on Platt Park Road. And this, to my knowledge, is not an issue on my road. So maybe I can come at it from a different angle. When they wrote these ordinances, what'd you say, 1987, 1982, you know, the town was much smaller. I didn't live here then. The vehicles that we drove, the trailers that they drove were much different. And so maybe if you approach this, instead of saying, well, it's got a motor so you can park it there, it's only a trailer so you can't, if you maybe address it by size and description so that it's not blocking the view when you back out of your driveway. That would make it a little bit more generic, because, you know, in 10 years, you're going to have the same problem. We're going to be driving different vehicles and different trailers, and they're not going to fit again. And I would like to second the idea that when we build new places, new subdivisions, that the roads are made wider. And I know that, you know, you can't say it's okay on this road and it's not okay on that road, but this gets back to the same thing. When they built Evansville, the roads were narrower for a lot of reasons. And so you really can't park the same thing on an old road as you can on a brand new one. And that may be something that we have to address. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. Alana Vino. I live over on Home Street. It's definitely one of those that this ordinance, even if we do change it, you guys decide to change the wording, this ordinance is specifically for recreational use vehicles. This is not for livestock trailers. This is not for the pull behinds that people use for their company, for they actually work out of. So I want that to be very apparent of, like, if you change the wording, this was directed for recreational use. This is not for truck trailers that are pulled behind that people are putting siding on or that they work out of. That is messing with someone's actual livelihood. And I want to make that very apparent of, don't mess with people's livelihood. That is definitely, it's a big deal. This is something to do with recreation, not livelihood. Very different. So keep that out of it. I personally, point blank, I'd like to see it got rid of. It's one of those, what's safe for 7 days is safe for 30, what's safe for the rest of the year. I have listened and spoken to Chief Thompson. It's one of those, if they are parked back 25 feet from the curb, so people can see past. Talking with Leo, he's our chief of police. If campers are not parked directly in front of houses, because EMS, fire department needs to be able to see house numbers. So that's obviously a huge importance. So not directly in front of it. So even if you do get rid of the ordinance, it needs to state campers can't be parked directly in front of that house, just so EMS, fire department, can find it in case of an emergency. And then listening to Robert a month ago, he had stated, look, I've been plowing around these things for so many years. I'm going to keep plowing around them. So there's no point in even having it to like only in the winter months. I've been plowing around them now. I can keep plowing around them then. So yes, you could change the dates, but why not just get rid of it altogether? Just make it safe, back from the corners, not parked directly in front of the houses, so EMS can find your house in case of an emergency. Anything else? Good, sweet.
Hello, I'm Paul Roberts. I don't even bring my into this town because it would take up 2 of the trailer lots if I pulled it up in front of my house. So, but she says don't park directly in front of your house. Where are you supposed to park it? Because your next door neighbor isn't going to like it. And right.
That is what I was going by. What they have that in case your house is on fire, you can
Yeah, some of the houses. Yeah.
Oh, I completely agree. It's just one of those like that's.
Talking about it directly in your front yard.
But one thing you could probably do, and town could charge a small fee, but you can cut out a lot to where people could store those trailers and things there when they're not in use. But like for him, where he has to get his daughter in, he needs it there. So I don't know. I'm not happy with this new ordinance, but it is what it is. But does that mean I can park my Freightliner on the road? I can't. You guys don't want it on by my parking lot?
Are you talking about like a semi?
No, it's not classified as a semi. It is a Freightliner. It's a Class M. It's between pickup and semi. Well, I have mine parked in right next to my driveway, and the town doesn't like it. I have a semi parked down the street from me every day, and nobody complains about it because he doesn't leave it.
So what you're suggesting is to get a law.
Yeah.
To be able to have residents
Have, you could even sell slips or whatever to put these things in there that aren't being used. I can understand someone uses their camp trailer maybe every 3 years, could go in there or something, but you could charge a small fee. And, that might help alleviate some of the problem. But yeah, to load up your RVs and stuff, you need them into the house to load them up. A lot of that stuff. But I won't even bring mine into town. I keep mine out. And because of that problem right there. Too many people complaining, too many people having a fit over something. But that's all I got to say.
Thank you. I just want to go on record for everybody to say that it's not the town and it's not council that are initially trying to, put the gauntlet down and say, no, we're literally addressing ordinances that have been here for us to not at this point. And so I just want to go on record that this is why we need to have these open discussions and suggestions so that we can work together as a town and not, just making choices and decisions based off of, problem solving or problem discussion. So I just want everybody to say that it's not that any of us sitting up here are against anyone in this room whatsoever, because we all live in this town as well, and we get to see a lot of these things as well. I like how this discussion is going because instead of us getting emotionally reactive and being upset about this we're coming as a town with real, honest, problem-solving skills and giving feedback and suggestions, because I will tell you that since I have been on the council, this is probably the biggest forum that we have ever had, and that is what we want as a council. We want people to show up and have a listening meeting for us now. So I hope that you hear me and say thank you for giving us the lot suggestions. I'm definitely taking notes. I know that everybody else is taking notes. It's important. So I just want everyone to hear us and say, we love this suggestion. We love this feedback. We want it for everybody. So please note that I'm humbly listening to everything.
I got two things left. One is on the whole address thing. There's a reason I have no address on my house. Because if you Google my house number, it doesn't Google as my house number. And I don't want people to find my house anyhow. Because I don't care for that many people. And two, we got an election coming up in November. Put it on the ballot, let people vote for it, see what happens. Whether to get rid of it or keep it.
Cannot put this on the ballot. At this point in time, the ballots are designed. So it's not something we can put on the.
County does all the time. On 1 cent sales tax, stuff like that. You can't put it on there.
You can once with enough notice, in advance notice, to put something on the ballot. At this point in time, all I'm saying is that it couldn't be something that would be placed on the August 16th or November same ballot.
2024.
So then it could be, absolutely.
Do it 2024.
Thank you.
So Mayor and council, I have to agree with a lot of what's been said here. When you take it out of storage, you gotta take it to your house. You gotta get it ready to go. And then you gotta, after you take the trip, you gotta bring it back, you gotta winterize it and stuff. That's more than 7 days probably, that it's in front of your house in a 30-day period. As far as the winter, most generally, a lot of people do take them off now and store them, because I have 2 of them. I have both of them in storage. And one trailer, the flatbed, I can bring it back and park it within 2 inches of where it was parked before. Because I've used it quite a bit when the kids have wrecked their cars, whatever. I gotta go get them in the middle of the night or something, come back, park it again. Nobody even knows it's been moved. And as far as getting wrecked that time, that was because the gal was texting. But she almost hit the neighbor's car. So she would have hit anything that was there. She just lucky it wasn't hooked to my truck. Because it wasn't cut halfway through the car. But anyway, that's pretty much all I gotta say is it takes more than 7 days to winterize it and to get it ready and stuff like that.
What would your suggestion be for us? What would you like to see happen?
Well, in the summertime, people are coming and going all the time. And so if you're gonna use it one weekend, it's a pain if you gotta put it in storage, like the one guy was talking about, and then bringing it back out. Because I have to call and give notice to get mine out of storage. And I cannot work on mine in storage, so I have to bring it to the house and work on it, which is what I'm doing to a trailer right now, is working on it and making sure everything is working. Because I'm eventually gonna sell it. But I can't work on it in storage, so I have to bring it to the house and work on it. And I've got some physical problems that I cannot do it on, real long periods sometimes. So the 7-day thing, the 30-day thing, I don't know.
Thank you.
If you're listening to my other community members here, I just wanted to, say that my opinion, please go ahead and at this time, get rid of the old ordinance. A new issue does arise for you, just to make it as clear as the sign coming in Evansville. That helps. please just communicate back to the community if any issues come. Okay, give you guys more advice or opinions on that. You guys need any assistance in, marking off the actual unsafe spots to park the RVs, please post that in another letter so we can have a conversation about that. But please get rid of this law.
Sir.
I'm not from Evansville, but I'm from Natrona County. I faced this issue one time when I was on the city council. And I heard the same things these folks are saying. And so, you know what I talked our council into doing? And I'm just going to make a suggestion. But I suggest they do nothing but park where you want to park, literally. Because that's what we did on 12th and 13th Streets in Casper, because of the way the houses were built in those days and the little yards and the little driveways. They're still little, but like this one lady said, the vehicles have gotten bigger. So they made 12th Street and 13th Street one-way streets. And so, but then we have a sidewalk. You can visualize this, folks, a sidewalk, but then there's about 8 feet of ground. It's the curve over to the sidewalk and then the sidewalk over to the house. And so people were parking up in that area. And it's against the law. But everybody parks there anyway because it's the only place they have to park. So I have to say I'm for the taxpayers and the citizens, because I'm a taxpayer here in Natrona County too. But just what I've heard, I can see why this gentleman has to have his trailer out in front of his house. I can see all of that, and so I know there's something you want to do. I know it's a problem, but to tell you what we did. Our zoning commission came in and said, when are you guys going to do something about this? We voted that you should close this down to these people. And me and a couple other guys said, we just can't do that. And so we're not going to accept your recommendation. We're going to let the people park where they want. They should park in front of their own house. Nobody likes somebody parking in front of their house. So this is a cool little town. This is one of the last kind of towns in Wyoming. And so the other ones get a little bigger. They call them cities. We have 99 towns and cities in Wyoming. But your taxpayers pay your bills. Your taxpayers and your citizens are out here for a reason. They need to work. They're working men and women. They got to work in front of their house. There are neighborhoods where you can't do that. There are cities where you can't do that. But this is Wyoming. So my only suggestion is I'd table this baby and talk about it in another year or two. That's what I would suggest. Now, it's none of my business, but I fought this battle. But I would also say that I came out here for another reason. I'm running for county commissioner because I want to know what the folks out here think that the county ought to be doing for them that the county isn't doing for them. If I don't go home and have dinner with my wife, I'm going to be in a lot of trouble. So you can get a hold of me. I answer all phone calls. See where you can find me. My name's Dallas Laird, because I want to know what the county can do to help Evansville and help the government. One of the things I voted for on the city council was to connect a roadway so you get out of town if something happened, a train wreck, and you couldn't get out of your own town. Because Evansville is Wyoming. I'm about Wyoming, period. And I hope you all get it solved. And I can understand why you need to park your trailer where you park in your truck, in your flatbed. And I think we ought to be able to do with our own property what we want to do with it. But we shouldn't interfere with our neighbor's right to do that. This guy here I've known for years. He and I won a golf tournament. So well, I'm a lawyer. I got to talk a little longer. Thank you very much. You're a great town council. You got a great young city attorney. Used to be in my office.
Thank you.
My name is Phil Gerke, and I've been up here 2 or 3 times on this issue. But in my humble opinion, I don't own a trailer. I don't own a boat. I don't own anything. To me, it just needs to be one way or the other. 365 days a year, either you can park recreational vehicles in the street or you can't. How in the world is he supposed to enforce it? I mean, my gosh. I mean, there's a, you know, you got, I'm sure, I don't know how many phone calls you get, how many emails you get a day, but it's unenforceable the way that it is. And so either you can or you can't, really simple. And that makes it easy. To me, as a homeowner, if I went and bought a camper or if I bought a motorhome, I'd have a place to park it off the street, okay? Because I don't want to get it hit. And to me, I've heard all this thing about physical damage. To me, that's nothing. But about the time some little kid or something runs out behind one of these trailers and gets hit, killed, or gets hit and is crippled for the rest of their life, then these same people are going to be screaming about this. So to me, it's just a safety issue. If it's just for looks, who cares? Okay, so that's just kind of the way I feel about it. Okay.
Thank you. Hi, guys. I'm Casey Henson. I live on Missouri Street, and so I've listened to everything. Everybody's has good points, but I think it's just over exaggerated. You could run out in front of a truck. You could run out in front of a car. If that child is small enough, we're not going to see it if we're in our vehicle driving down the road, and that's fact. It's happened to me. I work at D. Morgan Junior High, and I have seen kids run out in front of vehicles all the time, and they're junior high kids. So we live in a small town. There's little babies up to junior high kids to high school kids. If we're driving at the speed limit that we're supposed to be, that's not going to happen. And if we're paying attention, we're not on our phones, smashing into trailers. But my thing is, I lived in Evansville when I was a baby. I lived on Curtis Street. And then I moved back here 10 years ago, and I moved on Missouri Street, and it's a beautiful town. I'm blessed to be part of it. We are lucky, and I mean lucky, to get 4 months out of the year where the snow isn't flying and the wind isn't blowing and we are cursing, and we're running out of curse words because you know how I'm talking. Yeah. So, and I am lucky enough to own a home where I have RV parking and I can put my trailer and my boat in my driveway. Some of us, like Dawn and these guys, Elizabeth and them, they don't have that, but they do park theirs in the winter. They park them. So when you're coming and going in the summer and it's very little summer, I don't understand what the issue is. I really, really don't. There's a camper down at the end of the street that's been there for over 1.5 years. I don't care. I really don't care. It's not bothering me. You know why? Because I have a life. And I have things going on that I really, really care about. So I drive by it. I see it. I don't care. I think, man, that thing never moves. That poor guy can't haul that thing, or it must not work, or wow, But I beyond that, it doesn't matter. So I really don't understand what all of this is about, other than maybe too much free time. Maybe we need a hobby. I don't know. Camping would be a good hobby. I don't know. But I just think this is all so very unnecessary. We're a beautiful little town. Live and let live, man. So thanks for all you guys do.
Any other comments? Garden trailer ordinance.
Hey, Mayor, take a quick moment.
Absolutely.
All right, so we have lots of fresh faces in here. So quick catch up for you guys. This initial discussion came about. So 2 years ago, we restructured our research code enforcement. And the old law, 1983, hadn't really been enforced much prior to her coming here. It was, if somebody called me a complaint, dispatch, hey, I have a problem. But the only time it was enforced, there was a lot of not. So when she stepped in, our mission was, hey, we got some ordinances, like picking up things, trash, diverse, and tire tag, junk vehicle, and street property stickers. So she took that to heart, started working on cleaning up the community. You drive Evansville today, compared to maybe communities to the west of us, we look like Beverly Hills. So, but that started this discussion here. So coming back to tonight, there was some discussion about both It's not common practice for town ordinances to be put up to vote by the state. Enforcement has been a big part of the discussion. We've gone manpower, and somebody says, well, why aren't you enforcing this? You enforce speeding. Well, how do you prioritize if you don't have manpower? Do you prioritize speeding, stop signs, and DUIs, or trailers parked in the street? So, can we wait a year? We could, but we've already waited a year for discussion. So, what the council has been asking is input from you as to what do you think it should be changed to? Should go away. And the idea of moving the discussion forward, because if we wait another year, then the complaint with everybody's gonna be, well, 2 years, there's been no action, nothing ever happened. So I don't think the council should wait a year. We are, as the former attorney that was just here talked about, we are, and you guys are proof of that tonight, because they're here hearing your voices, and that's important. So the biggest thing for us in the police department is the enforcement of it, and if they do what one suggested is just leave it alone, then somebody else will be like,
oh, well, you're just not enforcing this, but you're enforcing that, so you're picking and choosing. So if you're going to change it, if they're going to change it, it either needs to be on the book and have a better plan, a wording that's more enforceable, that is admirable to the entire community. Because let me tell you, as a chief, you can't please everybody every day. One day I got one group of people mad because of something, and the other people are happy, and the next day it's a complete reversal. You can't please everybody all the time, but as a community, finding the middle balance, and that's what these guys are about, is finding the middle balance, a compromise. So for us on the back end, either change it so it's comparable, so everybody has some voice in it, or get rid of it so that I don't have to sit there on the phone or people come in the office going, why aren't you enforcing this? You're enforcing all these other stuff. Because let me tell you, there's a lot of other things I could be doing, but that takes up time to the day. So that was my comments for tonight, and for you fresh faces, that's how the discussion came about. Because when I took over, a lot of the council, the mayor said, hey, there's some ordinances we want enforced. I'm one of those people that says if it's on the book, it should be enforced, because that's why they become out there. So, but again, manpower, old laws, you think about where we were in 1983, brought that up, and where we're at today. So I think Janelle might be the only person from that era that's left in the room from when those laws were created. And how many laws have you seen changed since 1982? Because you said you're new to the community, but yet you've been here for a while. And communities change, they evolve. And the best way to address the ordinances of a community is the evolution, because what went on in 1983 isn't applicable today. The state statutes, so who was it asked about back row about marking stuff? So there's a whole lot of stuff that goes into like stop signs, corners. Shane can attest to this about it goes all to the federal level that typically the communities adopt these kind of things, like corner stop signs, safety, and that kind of stuff. But even at that, the statutes evolve, federal guidelines evolve, things change as society evolves. The rest of peace.
I have a question tonight. So if they come up with a resolution for these mobile homes, or if they change their law, is it still gonna be at your discretion on whether what you do? Because if that's the case, then you need to put it in there, that however they label it, that's how it has to go, and the police department has to follow it. And always
So,
add to it discretion.
so they can't actually do that because it's a case law through the Supreme Court that talks about officer discretion. So the other people in here, yes, there's discretion by officers. So anybody in here been stopped and given a warning for something?
Yes.
Officer discretion. Have you been stopped and given a citation? Officer discretion. So every officer has a different threshold in the decisions they make and how they respond to and deal with the different complaints. Okay. So for coming back to this particular ordinance, if through the council, they have a well-worded compromise for the community, and if somebody in here says, you know, that's a violation of that ordinance, make the call. You call dispatch, you create the case because it's documented. There's a flow so that it's recorded. Now, at the end of the day, the officer can be like, hey, technically you're in violation. Like, you know what, if you give me till morning, I can move it. Does it mean they're going to get a citation? Probably not. It ultimately comes down, and yes, as the chief, I give a lot of leadership, but I still cannot ultimately tell these guys what they can and can't do when it comes to citations versus warnings. It is individual through the Supreme Court. So, as an example, last week, an individual got stopped one day. The tint on his car was illegal. The officer the next day stopped another car because for whatever reason that week, he's like, I think I'm going to look at that particular violation, like stop signs, windshield, and all this stuff. So one guy got cited, one didn't. Somebody says, well, I don't think that's right. And I asked the officer, I'm like, why'd you pick one of the others? I don't know. It was just the way the stop went. He didn't really have a reason why he picked one over the other. It really comes down to discretion. Now, do some people talk themselves into citations? Absolutely. Some people can talk themselves into warnings because officers are human, just like everybody sitting in this room. But I can tell you, I've been stopped by some officers. I'm human. I go out and I've had infractions. I've had a couple state troopers. And let me tell you, those guys I would never employ here because of the way they treated me in that stop. And the way I treated them was exactly how they treated me. So in the world of discretion, how it comes about to the officers and the conversations can go a long ways. We're a small town, and my leadership to these guys is to work with the community. We don't necessarily, you have to sometimes get citations. Because if you just gave warnings, everybody would be like, it's like other communities where the officers can't pursue people. People like, oh, well, they can't chase me. So then it kind of builds that, they're not going to enforce anything. So at some point you have to write citations. So like a dog at large, a first offense, we're typically going to give them a warning. Now, if they bite somebody while they're out, that changes that discretion level because of the fact that a bite is more dangerous, obviously, than just the dog running at large. So there's a lot of factors that go into that. So at the end, for my angle, I just want something that's more applicable that the community and us can work together with, because I don't have the manpower to track trailers for 7 days here and 30, and it just, it's a lot. So yes, if it is better designed and worded, we will enforce it when people call and complain. And that's typically how most communities address the trailer ordinances, because to the officers, I would rather have them looking for DUIs, drugs, warrants, all that stuff that victimize our community. I want to keep that out. So the sworn guys work on that. The code enforcement, if she didn't have to give out 96 warnings to people to mow their grass, because you would think you wouldn't have to tell people to mow their grass, but we do. So I would rather not have to tell people to mow their grass, but unfortunately, due to fire and safety and bug hazard rodents, we have to tell people to do it. So where do you prioritize some of that stuff? So if she can work with people and say, hey, it is a violation, there's a change in the law. So whatever the compromise is, we're going to enforce it. And yes, there is discretion that comes with that. I think that in 4 years, we've grown a lot as a police department. You look at, the proactivity, just within COVID, the crime spike has went up across the board. I talked to a guy from Hutchinson, Kansas today. He's looking to come to our community. 6-year veteran of Hutchinson, Kansas, 40,000 population community. He wants to leave there and potentially come to work for us. He has a lot to bring. So what we're doing is a good thing. And as a police department, we have to grow just like everybody else. So a good compromise, we're going to enforce it fairly with some discretion. Fair enough? Okay. Any other questions? I stand for questions.
I know, it makes sense, right? It makes sense, but there's,
Mind-blowing, isn't it?
but there's people out there that'll be like, it's on my property, and they'll throw a conniption fit because they're being asked to move their trailer because it's in the way of something that you might be moving your trailer, I don't know. But if we're gonna take the stand with the council here and say, we kind of like that thing that just disappeared, you know, just cut it up, we're done, it's okay. Then it's our responsibility as a community to take care of each other and not be bad words.
Well, I agree. I mean, the first thing you should be saying is, how does it affect me? How is this affecting me? In my 24 hours every day, how is this affecting me?
Right.
Pretty simple.
All right, that's all. Thanks.
Any other comments regarding the trailer ordinance?
I have a comment regarding the trailer ordinance. I would like to just see, I would like to see it stay the same or be changed where we do have per se the lot or somewhere else to park your camper. I myself have a toy hauler as well. And when I have brought it, I haven't brought it to my Evansville house, but when I brought it to my house in Casper, I brought it home, cleaned it out, whatever. It truly doesn't take that long. And then I had it off the street. But my thought is, what my thought is on that, if you're gonna bring it home, do what you gotta do and park it off the street. And if we do come up with a decision, I think that it needs to be enforced by the police or whatever have you be, because it is an issue. Thank you.
Any other comments regarding trailer ordinance?
How long is this gonna go on before you guys finally come to a decision?
Well, I think that's something the council's gonna have to decide. So, council have any additional discussion on trailer?
I would like to get this handled and situated as soon as possible so that we can move on with more important council business.
I second that.
Whether it's a compromise, getting rid of the ordinance or whatever needs to happen, moving forward as soon as we can, because there are more, I mean, I'm not gonna lie, there are more important things on our agenda item list than this.
Absolutely.
And I would like to move forward with whatever our decision is going to be. So as soon as possible on my end, so that we can move forward.
We can move forward tonight if somebody has a motion.
So you guys would just have to motion it to get the ball rolling.
Yeah, basically, we would motion a change, which would then constitute a rewrite or removal of the ordinance, depending upon the directions chosen. And then that would have to go forward for 3 readings before the ordinance can be changed. Did you have a comment, sir?
Yeah, comments and questions. So we've all heard what we've had to say, so what except for inconvenience, and I may have missed it, except for trailers being on the street being an inconvenience to some people, I'm missing where the real problems and real concerns are. So I don't know if there's any record of that can be shared, because I mean, in fairness, you've heard us, we know it's not you, but we'd like to hear what's on record if there is anything that is an actual concern that maybe we're just missing. That make sense?
I do have one instance. So, a couple of years ago, my name's Robert Llewellyn, Public Works Director. One of the key things that we have to worry about with Public Works is water and sewer. A couple of years ago, we had an instance to where somebody's service line was leaking into their house. But they parked their boat on top of our meter pit. And we couldn't find the owner to the boat. the person living at the residence didn't know who it belonged to. And it took Mike a little bit of research to find the owner to the boat so we could get it moved and get the water shut off. I realize it's a small problem in the grand scheme of things, but if it is a problem, it's a pretty big problem. I also have concerns with manholes. And if you need emergency access to a manhole because somebody's home is backing up with sewage and things of that nature. Other than that, it really doesn't bother me with the trailers, but that is just something else to keep aware of.
So there could be certain ordinances that protect
and there are
those things. Oh, okay, so perfect. If there's already ordinances that protect those types of situations, and preventing trailers from being parked, onto water shindig, I forgot what you said.
Meter pit.
Meter
first
pit,
off,
thank you.
but yes.
That's what it was. You got, yeah. Well, so in the grand scheme of things, though, when you think common sense, you still have to try and look at the lowest common denominator, because I hate politically correct things because it's the truth. There are I make decisions that are along the lowest common denominator sometimes, and that doesn't mean that's bad. It just means that I have I call it a brain fart. I have a brain fart moment where I sit there and I make a decision and it's like, oh, that was dumb. And, in this case, whatever happened, a gentleman or lady parked their trailer where they shouldn't and someone's house was flooding. Shouldn't leave things like that parked in an alleyway. I mean, that makes sense.
Some of them are in alleyways, some of them are in front of the property.
Sure.
It varies throughout time.
Sure. So, but there's ordinances that say no.
Yes, there are.
Okay, perfect.
It's just knowing where your shut-offs are to your property. That's the key.
Is there? Never mind.
Vote for a little bit.
Thank you, Robert.
Well, sometimes, there's something kind of
We got some discussion. Someone have a suggestion? Nope. Sorry.
One other comment, I think that city council should be biased, and nobody there have a positive feedback thing supposedly. Like her comments on things, she sounds like she's not, neutral on the thing, open for discussion, so to speak, or whatever, I don't know.
Well, I think we all have an opinion. Hopefully our personal opinions are not what's driving this force, because we are the council elected by you all and here to represent the voice of the town. So we should be here representing that voice, not pushing our personal opinions. So
But you're also part of the community.
we are, absolutely. We're all entitled to have our personal opinion, and hopefully we're all doing what is best for the community. That's why we're here. We're not here to get rich or famous, because it's definitely not a job for that. But we are here to support our community and help move our community forward and do what's best for the community as a whole. That's why we're here.
And our choices and decisions cannot come from an emotional place, because that is where personal bias does come in. So yes, we are residents of the town, and yes, we might have our personal opinions, but at the end of the day, as your elected officials, we have to keep our personal bias out of, because then we are moving it or trying to wield it, meddling in it into a direction.
And I also
I
would
don't
say
think
that
that's helpful.
I'm pretty sure most of us on the council have campers or boats and whatnot, as well as you guys do too.
We're all in the same boat. So, yes, sir.
All I can say is God bless you guys trying to figure this out, because if you brought another 20 people, you would have 20 more.
I agree. So I see one of three ways of moving this forward here at this point in time. If a member has a motion they'd like to entertain, we can entertain a motion. We can take time and come back and digest all the input that was provided and bring a motion back in a future meeting, or we could also set a work session to have more elaborate discussion.
I think personally for me, because I was in the discussions last year and none of the discussions have really changed on my end, what I would like to do, at least on my end, is I would like to let it sink in, let it digest. I made a lot of notes, and then at our next council meeting, go forth with the motion. That's at least my thoughts.
Okay. Ms. Edwards?
I
Mr.
would
Scott?
like to possibly like see us have maybe a work session on it and kind of digest it all down and see how we can make it work for everybody.
I agree with, the other two members. I mean, we do need to digest a little bit, so I am not ready tonight to make any motions to move forward with a decision. I'm good with either way, a work session or just letting go, because again, I was here last year with pretty much the same comments, the same issues that we're kind of going over again.
So council direction, we set up a work session maybe August 15th and hash this out a little further. Or we can go to the 29th, depending on the amount of time everybody would like.
I think the sooner the
I
better.
think the sooner the better. I mean,
All right.
we can do it.
So we will schedule a work session
So
for August 15th.
can anybody come to the work session as well?
Absolutely. Yep, absolutely. The public's time to comment was tonight. The work session is, although it's, it's not that you cannot comment, but the work session is primarily for council to go back and forth trying to hash something out. It's not meant as a public comment period. Currently, the enforcement, as the chief has said, has been complaint driven. I believe last meeting time we discussed it, there were no complaints made. I don't know if many have been made from then till now. So I don't know that anything's going to change at that point in time. So. All right. Well,
So
we
is
will.
that work session?
Yeah, there's a work session for the 15th of August. Does that work for everyone? Okay. That way we're trying to give it a little bit of time to make sure everybody schedules a permit. So if not, we will make sure that it's announced and publicized when that work session is, so that public is more than welcome to come and attend. We certainly can. Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So it's been a great thing. I think pretty much this year we've had it up constantly. So we will keep the sign. All right. We have public comments. Item number 9, public comments.
I do.
Oh, yes, ma'am. 8, sorry.
I feel like I've talked way too much in this meeting. I just want to tell everyone that the community garden is flourishing. If you, I know, right? If you haven't made it down to the community garden, does everybody know where the community garden is?
Please come pick the radishes. If you like radishes, please come pick radishes.
Will you tell them where the community garden is? Because you diligently helped us transpire this whole thing.
It is on, gosh, I guess if you're going down Curtis, as soon as you hit the 4-way stop, there's that little walking path off your left-hand side. It's right there. The radishes right now are ready to be picked like crazy. Actually, you need to get them picked within the next, 4 or 5 days. They're going to start going to seed, which isn't necessarily the bad thing, but they're going to make them a lot more spicy. So if you like spicy radishes right now, come get them picked because they are in full gear of going. So nothing else is really ready to be harvested yet. They probably won't be ready for a while. Even the tomatoes aren't quite ready yet, but the radishes are growing like crazy and they need to be picked. So if you like radishes, please come pick radishes. And it's welcome to everyone.
Is pick whenever.
Yes, pick
Oh,
whenever,
okay.
however, you come and pick them. That is the point of the community garden, of just you come and help yourself. So, please come pick the spicy radishes. I cannot, they are too hot.
Thank you, it's looking great.
What?
So thank you, it's looking great.
I need to send this to you.
Any other public comments?
I do.
Yes, ma'am.
Real quick. So like a month ago, when we started this, topic, I said I would put out a poll on Facebook. I know it's Facebook or whatever. But 67 people voted, and it was one of those, it was about the ordinances. I was gonna get back up. I had put on there, get rid of the ordinances altogether, but still park safely, keep it how it is, or, and then somebody else had added, to be on the streets from May to October, but then having it off the street in April. So 53% of the people marked it as just getting rid of the ordinance altogether. 28% of the people said keep it how it is, and 20% of the people that took this poll was having it on the streets through May to October, but then having them just off the streets in the winter. What was that last
Yeah.
percentage? 17%. Mind you, this is only 67 people that voted. I can't guarantee you those are all Evansville, but this was ran off the Evansville Neighborhood Watch page. There's pretty much, if you live here or work here, pretty much have you in that group or whatever. But out of the 67, that was the percentage.
Thank you.
Just wanted to pop that up.
Thank you, appreciate it. All right, do we have any other public comments this evening? Public comments? All right, do we have a motion to adjourn?
I motion.
There a second? All those in favor? Adjourn at 8:45. I think, did you second, Candace? I second. Oh, second. Daisha moved and Michael seconded.
Chad, I can tell you in a hot second whether or not I'm available that day.
Okay, and I was just trying to find that.
Just let me know. I'm available.
Okay, Scott, thank you.